Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, the Red Raiders readying to hit the road in week number 2. Which player is in the most critical spot for Tech come Saturday night? We're into it next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Today's episode brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach, a brand new mobile game that's completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. And you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's Locked On CFB inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program and begin your coaching legacy today. As we are back at it and beginning to look ahead to what's coming up, it's Texas Tech on the road against Washington State. Want to go back to some news yesterday, Chris, first, as it relates to an injury report, and one that involved number 28, Tahj Brooks, questionable for week 2. And so that led to all other kinds of questions as to what it might look like if Tahj is limited or unable to go in general. And that was something to kick off the week that Red Raider head coach Joey Maguire spoke on. Here is Coach Maguire.
I think there's going to be a good split. I mean, I think we'll add, if we get to, that'll be a game time all the way up, game time situation. Tahj might fight us to get on the field, just the type of person he is. But we'll add in, it probably won't be a heavy role, but we'll also add in Jacoby Williams. So, we'll travel all 4 of our backs. We'll travel Tahj and the 3 guys to, go in the game. And, Cam Dickey does, he's a heavier back. Valdez, if it happens, he'll start it just because if he's more experienced and has played in some games this year. I wish that we could have got some more reps out of those guys. But once it became the game that it was, man, you had to ride with what you had. I mean, there's a lot of things that you wished on Saturday some other guys would have gotten the game. But those guys, I mean, we'll ride with those guys. I mean, they've all had good camps. It's good to have those guys and have the depth in that room. Not a lot of experience, but at least you have guys that can go in there and play. And it's really big that Cam Dickey was here in the spring to have a good grasp of the offense.
Just something else to add to the pucker up factor after a nail biter of a win in week 1. Now a guy that's your most proven commodity, questionable heading into week 2. I don't know how to decipher where he is, I guess, on the game time or questionable kind of spectrum. And maybe you can lend some insight if possible, or we're just going to have to wait together, Chris. But it sounds like this will be one we're waiting on, like Coach Maguire says, right up until kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, Quincy Ledet was questionable last week. He played. I think the same holds true here. Just a guess, but Tahj finished the game. Maybe there was something that they, determined after the game was over, and they looked at it and it's like, uh-oh. But I mean, short of him breaking his arm and having a big cast, you trying to tell me that he comes back and you're keeping him out of the first road game here? I don't believe that. I don't think that you will keep him out. I mean, if there's nothing wrong with his legs and he can carry the football, and so maybe if it is the arm that he carries it with, and there's something going on there, I don't know. But I didn't see anything on the sidelines that would have shown me that they were looking at anything or whatever. But not that I could see everything. But I think. I think he plays, but that's purely speculation. Maybe that more needs to play out throughout the week. I don't know, but because you didn't see Cameron Valdez the other day, I was only Cam Dickey, unless I missed something.
I think he got one, or maybe
one carry?
Okay. One carry, maybe a couple of snaps.
Okay, yep, you're okay. You're right. Him and Dickey both each had one carry. I must have missed that. The one from Valdez, but I knew Dickey got one and all that. So we'll see, but that's kind of what I think everybody expects Washington State to do. Is really their defense is typically made to they really sell out to stop the run and all that. So maybe I don't know what to think there. We can get into a lot of that as the week goes along, but I just think you'll see 28 this weekend. But I guess we'll see. Because again, that's the one questionable you had last week was Quincy Ledet. He played in this game this past weekend. So and I know there's 5 or 6 guys that are on that questionable list. Baskerville's on there, and Brooks, and a variety of others.
I guess going back to last season, if I felt like Brooks was limited, it's kind of like, okay, the offense is going to be limited in its totality. And I'm wondering, after 1 week this season, am I feeling a little bit more emboldened to say that if your running game has to take a step back, that you got more to rely on through the air? Because I was liking a lot of what we saw from Baron Morton, like the hell of a lot of what we saw from your pass catchers. It is 1 week's worth of evidence, so I don't want to make too much out of it. But I don't know. I kind of want to make too much out of it, Chris, if you're picking up my drift, because I would love for Tahj Brooks to be back in a 27 touches kind of scenario, especially on the road, because, man, you can really drain some life out of a stadium if you've got some physical, punishing type of drives to close out a win. Now, of course, you got to be in that position to do that in the third and fourth quarters. But, hey, big plays through the air will drain the life out of a stadium as well. And guys like Kelly and Conyers and Douglas and Aiken, and I mentioned Baron Morton, I mean, they looked capable in week 1. So I'm kind of wondering how you feel on the confidence scale as to sort of the identity maybe the offense can take on this year compared to last, if Brooks is limited or, God forbid, not available on Saturday night.
Yeah, and part of me wants to choose that we don't, or choose to believe that we don't have to get into this yet. But I get your point. In case you do, I do think you have a lot more options at your disposal on how to score points and how to where he doesn't have to be the whole identity to where like, oh no, our pets' heads are falling off, we're in trouble. I think at some point Cam Brown is going to ease into this thing. I think he was. You could tell he's pretty nervous coming from small West Georgia, and then you've got some of these younger backs, and you've got a lot more. Because I think that I think you'll see more of like what you did at the 2-point conversion with Conyers, like kind of the wildcat. So there's a lot more ways to attack teams via the run game if Tahj were to miss. But yes, to your point, you can drop back and chunk it a bunch too. I mean, I really believe that. I think you're built. I think that's one thing that we saw from week 1 that we can go. I think that the offensive skill is massively upgraded. I mean, it is. Not that it's a blanket statement, not that it will hold true, or that you can say, oh man, overwhelmingly or whatever. But I think what we saw in a small sample size. But some may say, you haven't seen a whole lot. Well, people are already making big, these assumptions about the defense, and what you saw is what you will continue. So then it's fair to say, if that's the case, then I guess you've upgraded the offensive skill. Like we can put it in Sharpie,
Yeah, I don't want to just believe the bad and dismiss the good, but that seems kind of the way that a fan typically wants to go, and I can be guilty of that myself. But again, hopefully that's a conversation we're really not even having to consider by the time we get to kick off on Saturday night, but certainly something worth noting. Also notable from week 1 and looking ahead to seeing how it would apply in week 2 is the specialist impact, the special teams impact at large. First, today's episode brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Locked On Texas Tech fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love. It's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Red Raiders? From recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camp and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Think you can handle the pressure? Find out today. And even better, Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want. And of course, we've got a special offer for Locked On Texas Tech fans. Use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost for your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk, as it's going to help your team get off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or find it in the app stores, and kick off the ultimate football experience with Ultimate College Football Head Coach now, and begin your coaching legacy today. Also notable from week one and looking ahead to seeing how it would apply in week two is the specialist impact, the special teams impact at large. And I don't know, I guess I thought maybe there was a bluff factor going into game one as it related to your kicking game. That was no bluff at all, because we saw multiple legs involved, but thankfully still a lot of success. And it wasn't just the kickers. Obviously, Dre McCray, Conference Special Teams Player of the Week, was huge. And even though this is a little bit different version, I guess, of special teams impact, Jalen Conyers and a 2-point conversion, huge as far as a 1-point win is concerned. And Coach Maguire talked about continuing very likely to see multiple legs involved, but hoping also to see special teams impact involved like we saw against Abilene Christian.
Yeah, that's the plan, man. I was really proud of both of those guys. They made some big kicks. Reese made some big kicks. If you go back, again, we go to, the plan to win. I mean, that game was won because of special teams, because of our kicking game. We were 3 for 3 on field goals. That was huge. And, in the special teams, we got a 2-point conversion out of Jalen Conyer, which, by the way, what a friggin' catch that he made in the end zone. And, every time he touches the ball, it seems like something really good happens. And so we'll see more of that. But we'll just ride with those kickers and rotate them.
What'd you think about that, Chris? Because coming into it, I'm not so sure that it wasn't just some coach them up through comments to the media kind of thing, but I'll be danged. We saw a rotation.
I tell you what I thought of it is it added to my stress level. Because it wasn't like we're sitting there doing the broadcast and you're watching this back and forth, and you as ACU starts to come back and you realize you can't get them stopped, and you end up in this, and you start playing it out in your brain. Okay, how many possessions are left, and how's this thing going to play out? And you're alternating kickers, right. And one of them kicks his very first field goal for you with 8:30 left. And you needed every point, as we are now aware. The other one comes in, and these aren't, it was a 41-yarder and a 31-yarder. The other one comes in, Gino does, with 2.5 left to I think take the lead. And these are major kicks. You're also doing something similar with the extra points. And I thought, if either guy blinks and loses the kicking competition here, and it costs you the ACU game. I just was playing it out in my head. I'm like, oh, well, this is giant huevos is what it is. I don't know. I mean, this was, but Reese and Gino, I'm down there kind of, close to where they are. They always are kind of behind the ball or in front of the ball at the other end of the box or whatever by the kicking net. And they're just, kind of talking and hey, get ready and kicking into the net and doing everything. They didn't seem near as stressed as I was, but I'm just and it just wasn't the storyline that anybody was really focused on, because I think everybody's holy cow, we're in a shootout. And people maybe don't even notice that there's a different guy running out there and alternating these extra points and these field goals and things like that. But I darn sure was. I'm like, wait, Gino's over here. And okay, so now we're going to, and yeah. But shout out to Kenny Perry, though, because his special teams were phenomenal the other night. I mean, that is, you had 2 monster returns, 64 yards and 75 yards, I believe, from Dre McCray. I think I'm right on those numbers. Totally flipped the field. One of them, you take the next snap, flea flicker, touchdown. The other one, you settle for a field goal. That's frustrating. But Dre McCray, awesome stuff. That kickoff return deal, he deserved it. All the kicking in all aspects. The crocodile punter, Jack Burgess, he only got the one kick for 45 yards. But you're kicking. I think that you didn't really give up any plays. in the return game against ACU. I just thought Kenny Perry's group was on point all night, and ultimately heavily factored into why you ultimately won this game. I said ultimately too many times, but you get the idea.
Yeah, and I like you pointed to there, those 2 kicks in the fourth quarter. I mean, as crunch time as it gets, 41 and 31, the distances. And I kind of think if you're Gino Garcia, I don't know how you don't slice this up anyway other than like being disappointed to be in a competition like this or like a rotation, because he was the incumbent coming into it. But then you're back out there with under 3 minutes to go and they're calling your name. Again, huevos, let's use that one again. The huevos in that situation was amazing, because that's dig down and see what kind of guts you got kind of time. And yeah, when you're in a 1-point win, obviously each and every one of those, along with extra points and everything else, all adds up.
And now that you're on the other side of it and you're sitting here and you won and they did this, you now have that in your back pocket to where each one of these kids has had a meaningful kick this season. I mean, because Reese's was every bit of meaningful. Trust me. If you were in the stadium, you would have sensed it too. And a 41-yarder is not just a chip shot. And he's kicking it into the new south end zone and all that. But he just stepped up and did his thing. But I think that's now a positive now that you're through it. But I mean, are you willing to like game on the line in Pullman on Saturday at 10 o'clock Pacific time? I mean, are you willing to continue to alternate? Are you willing to go, okay, I'm going to override it now, you go out there? I mean, I don't know what you do. And are you waiting for somebody to miss? And if they miss, is that it? I mean, I don't know how this plays out. I really don't. Because one miss that doesn't almost seem fair. Like, yeah,
no kidding.
Well, it was a bad hold, or the weather sucked, or it was a slippery deal. And like, I mean, is that? I just don't know. Kind of what will break the tie here, and how you'll kind of ride off into the sunset the rest of the season with whoever is okay. This is our guy. I don't know.
Do you think that Garcia had like a bad camp or something?
I think that's exactly what happened.
As an incumbent, I don't know how else another guy gets into the competition, because it's not like. Well, it's just not like another position where you're really just flashing in all these different ways. It's like either you make the kick or you don't make the kick. So it's kind of interesting to see him come out week 1 and have such a big impact, maybe when the camp didn't go as well as he had hoped.
And I don't know numbers. I don't know percentages. I don't know how. But, I mean, obviously it was enough for Kenny Perry to walk into that one press conference back and hey, man, any of you guys make a kick? I mean, sheesh. I mean, like, you just see what I'm dealing with out here. And we don't know. Was one of them 30%? Was one of them 70%? I don't know. I just, at the end of the day, I knew that Gino Garcia was going to be involved at some level, because he led the Big 12 in field goal percentage last year. He was 9 of 10 in Big 12 play. A lot of the mishaps were in the non-conference. He won the game at Kansas. I just was like, you're not tossing that out. Like, I just don't. I refuse to just wipe that like out like it did never happen. So at some level, he was not going to lose his job, but maybe he's going to have to fight to keep it. Is maybe the best way to phrase that now.
Okay, that's a lot of conversation about kickers, so I apologize to everybody for involving them that much, but that was one of the more interesting aspects of the ball game. And again, we'll say it like I already said it, when you win a game by 1 point, these things matter greatly. Chris, as we begin to turn the page and look ahead to Washington State, and we'll get into some thoughts from Coach Maguire and company on the Cougars on tomorrow's episode. But in general, I just wanted to wrap up our conversation with a road type of conversation, because that's been one of the monkeys on the back. Today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list of tasks at work or a bundle of do-it-yourself projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can cover everything with energy to spare. If you're like me, you've always got a lengthy list of things to get done around the house. So when you're getting your supplies for any project, don't forget the most essential one, a 5-hour energy shot. 5-hour energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. And that's why 5-hour energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy and hectic day. And you always know where to find 5-hour energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. And even better, you can stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5-hour energy shots. And right now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-hour energy today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Hurry, because this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions and does not apply to subscription orders. Boost your day and boost your life and get in the Get It Done zone by going to 5hourenergy.com today. In general, I just wanted to wrap up our conversation with a road type of conversation, because that's been one of the monkeys on the back of the program and Coach Maguire's era. There have been a lot of things to be excited about and a lot of things to like. But obviously success on the road has been hard to come by. I don't necessarily know how to compare Washington State yet to other just strictly opponents that you've faced on the road. I don't think they're going to be the Texas Longhorns of last year, but the environment, the context, the circumstances is one of the most unique that you've had as far as road opportunities. Wyoming's was fairly unique, but this is West Coast. As far as it relates to God's time, that being Central Time, it's going to be abnormal. I'm thinking about not only the players and coaches, I'm thinking about sideline radio reporters as well. I mean, this is going to be quite the setting. So I'm really curious to see if this is one of those where Texas Tech can find some success that has really eluded them, because not only are you just away from your stadium, but it's kind of a weird setup.
Yeah, I had I talked to Darcel McBath when I was on the sideline before the game even started on Saturday. I hadn't seen Darcel since he had come back, and I was down there trying to put my equipment on and getting all lined up, and he came over and talked to me. And the last time I had actually seen Darcel was on Beale Street in Memphis, and he was wearing his Mississippi State stuff. I said, "Do you remember the last time I saw you?" And he's like, "Memphis." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, y'all did a number on us, whatever." And so he had coached up at Washington State, and for whatever reason, one of the first things I said was, "Hey, tell me what to expect next weekend." He just furrowed his brow, and he's like, "They will start fast." He goes, "Everything works against the road team." He goes, "It's just hard to get to. It's, the visiting team." And he goes, "And they're going to be juiced up. They're going to start really fast. At night game, you have a lot working against you in this setting." Granted, this is probably it's some level easier than Outson Stadium in Oregon, but it makes you nervous. No, because the thing about the Oregon game is you almost play that game and be like, "We have no pressure. I'm not worried about it," because they're probably going to win, or is what you're thinking. Like you and I consider talking about it, but you go play Washington State, pretty even teams, but it's all the other stuff, the Mike Leach stuff. You take Clay Maguire, you take Josh Kelly. They hired Jared Castor, your former offensive lineman, to replace Clay Maguire. Ben Arbuckle, who's from Canadian, was an offensive coordinator at Seminole and has coached at Houston Baptist and at Western Kentucky under Zach Kitley. So there's a lot of familiarity there. It's just one of those things that there's going to be a juiced environment. It's not a huge stadium. I don't even know if it holds 40,000. But they also have, and Joey pointed this out the other day, like you probably dealt with ACU and a lot of chip on the shoulder guys either from Lubbock or that had played from you were motivated. That at some level that matters. You can't tell me that Nehemiah Martinez, that Maverick MacGyver, Jed Castles, that Trey Cleveland, they all play phenomenal games against you. I don't believe that they will be able to sustain that going forward. Otherwise, ACU is winning the FCS championship. But the motivational factor here is that you're only one of very few Power 4 programs now going against Washington State. They got left out. I mean, they only have so many opportunities to try to prove a point or to say, "Don't forget about us." And this is one of them.
Yep.
Granted, next week is against Washington and it's the Apple Cup. So maybe you catch them I don't know.
Let's look ahead.
I'm taking whatever I can, but there's a lot going on here with this one. But I just know this: the dude playing quarterback for him threw for a ton of yards on only 11 completions.
Yeah.
So they big played Portland State, and it said, I guess it was like, are they the Vikings? But it's like VIKS on the VIX. I don't know what was going on. But Portland State was just like, I'm looking at shoe bottoms in the back of a jersey all day long is what it was. But so here we go.
This is a game that I think is really big for one guy in particular, that being Baron Morton, because your quarterback does not need to be just another guy out there. And I'm not even really talking from a playmaking standpoint. I mean, from a rallying around standpoint, from a poise type of standpoint. He needs to be a presence in the huddle, assuming a team ever takes the time to huddle anymore. That's an antiquated thought, I know. But I think this is really big for him, Chris, to go on the road, be in an environment like that, and either make it or break it, so to speak. I don't want to put too much pressure on a guy in week number 2, but we've talked about him, being at the steering wheel and going into the season as the guy. And I think this is one of those settings, and there are counterparts defensively. Maybe you point to a linebacker or something like that. But I think for a team at large, you look at a quarterback and you think, hey, if you're in this certain frame of mind, or if you have the belief, then the team is in this frame of mind and the team has this belief. And so I think this is a huge spot for Baron Morton early on in the season.
Yeah, Baron needs to go do what Tyler Shuck could not do at Wyoming last year, and figure out a way to get his team to rally and to play well and to make some key plays and throws and all that. That's what good quarterback play does, man. You find a way, and I think that that's why you hope 28 is behind him, because that's a settling effect on everybody. But there's going to become a time where it's 3rd and 8, and you're not going to be able to hear, and it's going to be loud, and you're going to have to move the chains to either win the game or give yourself a chance, or whatever it may be, that he's going to have to step back and deliver. I thought Baron played. I think there's a few things that he missed. I don't pretend to know did he check in the right stuff, out of the wrong stuff, all that game. So we don't ultimately know how much he misses from that standpoint, unless Joey or Zach Kitley were to get into that. Little plug, Zach Kitley and Baron Morton be on Red Raider Football with Joey Maguire this Thursday night. So maybe we can ask them, each one of them, or both of them, or one of them, whatever. But I don't know how that aspect went. But I thought for the most part, I thought it was pretty good. He didn't take too many hits. I don't think he really chanced. There was really nothing close to what I would have thought an interception. I thought he threw the ball well down the field. I mean, the one to Conyers was money. The throw in overtime to Caleb Douglas was good. The flea flicker to Josh Kelly. I mean, it was just it looked good, like we used to see around here. And I wanted to give it a big hug. So yeah, they didn't. The 4th and 1 on the goal line was a bit frustrating that they didn't convert. But I mean, you're trying to hand it to Tahj Brooks, your best player maybe, and you can't get a yard. And it's like, in fact, it was a 2-yard loss. Like, what's going on? And there was a few other, I think, issues. They went for it on 4th down, and Baron got a ball tipped and whatnot. But yeah, I thought for the most part he played well, and he's going to need to this weekend again for sure.
I mean, a running back can be a great player, but somebody's got to give it to him, and the running back's not talking to everybody in the huddle necessarily or at the line. There's just something about a quarterback in those moments, like you're talking about 3rd and 8, or, hey, here's a drive that you're starting backed up against the end zone or whatever. There's got to be something from a quarterback specifically that in those moments on the road, hostile environments, or when your back is against the wall, that he's got to deliver, not only after the snap, but I think oftentimes prior to the ball being snapped as well, and just the demeanor and the good vibes, hopefully, that he's passing along to his teammates. So big spot for number 2 this week. Big spot for the Red Raiders, feeling some pressure, which is odd to say after you start with a week 1 win, but pressure nonetheless. And I think from another standpoint, you're wanting to get off to a better start for a season, obviously, as we talked about coming into the year, with some opportunities to do that, obviously playing what you play back in Lubbock, or the number of games you play back in Lubbock early on in the year. So, man, what a nice one to take if you're able to do it on the road against Washington State. We'll continue to turn our attention more so towards the Cougars as the week moves along. So looking forward to that. Appreciate the time as always, Chris, the insights as well, man. Enjoyed it.
ELE, man. Everybody love everybody out there. We'll get through this together. Hopefully there's a win on the horizon there in Pullman, and we'll talk to everybody, I guess, about it again tomorrow as we build up to a big road contest. Joey Maguire 3-8 on the road to this point, but spent a lot of time in the offseason, and the Dan Campbell stuff and all that points to fixing your issues on the road. So big one coming up this weekend. We can talk about some more of that as the week rolls along right here on Locked On Texas Tech.
Certainly will. So hope you'll get subscribed out there on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts if you haven't so far, so you miss nothing. Appreciate y'all for being out there. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.